Bow, 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 bow. Bring. What's happening, Marcus? What's going on? I still feel pretty bad about yesterday, and also I'm pretty angry about Luka Doncic. But there's other things in life.
Otherwise, it's all good. Huh?
Everything's great. Great sports day, guys.
Otherwise, yesterday was a mess. I think I texted you guys at one point, like, this is miserable to watch. At some point, I got to 5-0, and I'm like, well, I'll leave it on in the background while I'm doing other things. And then it got to 8, and I'm like, all right, well, the Lakers are about to start. Let's turn over and do that.
Let's just go that way.
Let's just go that way.
Yeah. All right. But Blue Review is brought to you by LAX. Changes are arriving daily, as always, and transforming the travel experience. For more information, go to flylax.com/transforminglax. Marcus, what's going on, man?
Let's start before we get to any of the nastiness from yesterday. Did want to start with something at least a little bit fun because today, you may or may not know, is an anniversary.
Of?
44 years ago today was the official start of Fernando Mania. It was his first start as a Dodger. Now, previously in 1980, he made a handful of appearances, but all out of the bullpen. It was on April 9th, 1981, that he made his first start, which actually happened because someone else was scratched, and they put Fernando in there, and a shutout, 9 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts against the Houston Astros. The Dodgers go on to win 2-0. Fernando would go on to have 8 straight complete games to begin that season. It's part of what was a phenomenal campaign, but it all began April 9th, 1981.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that so much. Yep. Dude, was that pretty good? Was that a good line for your first time out there? That seems like
that's
a pretty good line.
Seems pretty good. As your first time as a starter? Yeah, that's
first starter.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. I'm looking at his reference. He pitched in games the year prior, but that was the start of his rookie year. But in that, I mean, when he ended that year, he was an all-star. He won the Cy Young. He was 5th in MVP. He was the Rookie of the Year, and he was a Silver Slugger. That's a pretty good season for a guy. And it also makes me think, like, it's kind of upsetting. I know that's just the way baseball is now, but that's not. We don't see those things anymore. 9 innings. That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen now. I mean, just the way pitching is. I think with the insistence, the reliance on basically maxing out on every single pitch, right? Trying to get velocity, trying to get spin rates. It just seems impossible. Remember last year, Gavin Stone had a complete game, and like we talked about that for weeks, as though like he was the second coming of Fernando, sort of thing. Because you're just not going to see it.
Like, God, how with 9 innings you're going to go complete game,
right? What is this?
It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know Sandy Alcantara's back. Sandy Alcantara is a guy that does that as well. I don't know if he's been doing that. I think he's back now and pitching. He has complete games a lot. I don't know what he's done this year. I just want to look it up real fast.
Yeah.
But
I'm actually looking up how many complete games. 12, 13, 14.
No, he's not doing
20,
oh no, you're gonna be coming for
I got
some time.
28 if I counted right. I think it's 28, I believe, last year in all of Major League Baseball. No, last year in all of Major League Baseball.
Last year.
Complete games. Yeah.
Insane.
That's it.
For Fernando, for his career, had 113 complete games.
Right.
So that one guy is just like this. That's what. So if there's 28, you're talking about like 5 years worth of full seasons for the Major League Baseball.
I mean, that's just insane. Like, if I'm looking like Fernando in his rookie year had 11. He had 20 in 1986. There were across all of baseball last year 28. It's wild.
It's just a totally different game, and it's because you're maxing out on every pitch, and you get like guys like Paul Skeens that throw 104 miles an hour, but he's going deep into games, 7 innings, but like that just is. It's not sustainable for some of these guys, and also look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers specifically, they're pulling guys with 68 pitches, 72 pitches. Like, oh no. We can't get you into the 80s. You can't go into the 6th inning and get it and have to pitch into the 80s. We need you at the end of the year. That's what we're talking about. I don't care if 5 innings max.
That's it. That's all you're gonna get. You're not gonna get a third time through the lineup. You're just not.
No,
that's it.
No, and also, well, I mean, for the Dodgers, they destroy people when they get to the third time in the lineup for the
There's
most
that
part.
part.
I mean, they did it. They did it to Tarek Skubal. They did it to Chris
Jack
Sale.
Flaherty.
Those two we've been talking about. Jack Flaherty. Getting the third time through the lineup for this team makes a big difference. At least it had been until they decided to play like absolute garbage in Washington.
Yeah. That's. I guess we got to get to that, right?
Yeah, we do at some point.
Yesterday, I think was maybe the worst game they've played this year.
That's saying something.
The game, there was the game against Atlanta when they made several errors and they had no business coming back, and somehow they come back to win on the Shohei walk-off. At least they figured that out. This one, though, it was just kind of bad from start to finish, right? Wroblewski struggled on the mound. I know on the broadcast they talked about him getting squeezed, and I think he did a little bit, but that was not the main culprit for what went wrong with Justin Wroblewski yesterday. And at some point, I think Dave Roberts was like, "Well, you're just gonna have to wear this one." It was 8-0, and they kind of kept him out there for a little bit. They got him through 5. I think just for Dave Roberts, it was like, well, here it is. You're gonna get these innings. You're gonna eat these innings, and then we'll figure it out the rest of the way. But the offense has been nowhere to be seen in Washington. The pitching last night was terrible. The defense the night before was not very good. All the little things that we worried about have really kind of come home to roost in this series, and now they're hoping Landon Knack can figure it out to avoid a sweep in Washington.
Yeah, that's saying some. Landon Knack was a good pitcher last year, but he also can give it up a little bit. So last night though, Justin Wroblewski, we talked about it yesterday. That was my biggest worry for him. We talked about it, like, hey, attack. Don't be the guy that you've been in the past. He came in all of last year. He gave up home runs and he walked guys. I think he had like 26 or 29 walks last year, and he gave up 9 home runs in 8 games. That is not what could have happened. And he did just that. He walked guys. He walked in a run. He gave up multiple home runs. That's just a recipe for disaster. And you're right. They just said, hey, you're going to wear this one. And look, obviously this team is going to be just fine. They're going to go on some crazy streak where they go like 50-12 at some point in the season. Everything's going to be fine. They're going to go to the playoffs. We still think they're going to win the World Series. But as of right now, and in this year, they have been playing like absolute garbage. They have been playing bad defensively. Some of the pitching, for the most part, has been good, but there's been kind of up and down. But they also walking a bunch of guys. The defense has been awful. There's only been a few guys. Like Max Muncy has been a mess. I know he got up to 300 at one point. Tommy Edman has been tough. He's probably somewhere around 230 right now. But I don't care about batting averages. It's eye test. You just don't see very much, and it's very early on. But Kike can't hit a ball unless it's a home run. He's 4 hits and 4 home runs. Like what is happening right now? It's just it's a weird year so far.
It really is a weird year so far. I think just to be plain about it, they have played like a mediocre ball club. They are not a mediocre ball club. They have just played like one through the first couple of weeks of the season. I guess if there's an upside to it, the Giants and Padres also got off to hot starts, and they have been scuffling a little bit. And, I'm not sure if you saw, it looks like Fernando Tatis tweaked something last night. I don't know what the outlook for him is, but he had to leave the ball game. So that potentially is really bad news for the Padres if he has to miss any significant time. We talked about this before. The Giants from top to bottom, really nothing to fear there. So, you knew they were going to sort of come back to earth. So at some point, the Dodgers are going to figure this out. To your point, they're going to go on a run. They're going to put some space between themselves and everybody else in the division. I'm not worried. I'm definitely not worried about the Rockies. I'm not really worried about the Diamondbacks at this point either. So, this really is a case of the Dodgers kind of figuring themselves out. And who knows, maybe just they come back home. I know they got the Cubs, which is not going to be an easy series, but maybe just getting back home will do this team some good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the Giants. Do you know Jung-Hoo Lee is they brought in from Korea last year? He has the greatest nickname. His fans have the greatest nickname ever.
Okay.
They're the Hooligans. Hooligans.
That's all right. That's kind of cool. I take no pleasure in
cool
admitting
that?
That's kind of cool.
Like I hate the fact that he's a giant. Like he's a part of the evil empire to us. But Hooligans is amazing. That's very, very funny to me.
That's pretty cool. And he's hitting 300 right now for what it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, he has a huge following, and he has a bunch of dudes. They wear like these, I think it's like mohawks or something like that. But it's pretty funny. Hooligans is pretty good. Yeah. But going back to us, like, I didn't see much in that game yesterday that made me feel good about anything. I was talking a little bit with Travis before the show, like I always do, but Kike has been fine at first base. I actually think he's actually played a good defensive first baseman for what he is. He just can't hit. He just can't hit outside of a home run. What do you do there? Like, what can you really do at this point? You probably just have to leave him until Freddie comes back. I mean, I believe they said, and we always believe everything Dave Roberts says to a degree. They said after the 10 days he's going to be off, and so I think he's coming up pretty soon. But I haven't heard more about Freddie.
Yeah, well, I know that they placed him on the IL sort of retroactive, right? So they backdated it a few days, so it should be relatively soon. It maybe even by the time they get home, if I'm thinking about this right. But to your point, I think at this point you've played Kike at first base for so long. You've had Max Muncy over at third. I think you really just have to ride it out until Freddie is back and ready to go. I mean, I don't really see any other options at this point. So I think Kike is fine. Part of what Freddie does, and any good first baseman, not only does a good first baseman not make errors, they sort of prevent the rest of the infield from making errors as well. What they do over at first base. I don't expect Kike to do that on the same level as Freddie Freeman, but I think he has been passable over there. I think for a lot of it, at least the last couple of days, I'd even say, going back to most of that trip in Philadelphia, it's been the offense has really just kind of let them down. I'd say the offense and the starting pitching, because they find themselves in holes, and then the offense has kind of gotten close, but not necessarily over the hump. So, maybe it's April. It's cold in places they're going to. Get back to Los Angeles, where it's going to be in the 70s, maybe low 80s, depending on what the forecast is next week. And maybe we see the bats warm up.
Yeah, that would be very, very nice. And by the way, Freddie Freeman's eligible to return from the IL on Friday at home versus the Cubs, so he very well could be back by Friday. So that will no longer be an issue if he does come back from the IL, and then your lineup just gets a little bit longer, and you start feeling a little bit better about the people in there. Then that means that you can probably give Muncy a day off or two, so you can put Kike over there, who also probably needs a day off or two. Right. We start finding. We talked about it before. I would have liked. You brought up Hunter Fiducia, and he was playing first base yesterday. I know he hasn't played since like high school at first base. They talk about it on the broadcast over and over again that you can get away with anybody at first base for the most part for a game or two, but for long stretches of time that won't work. So if we only have a couple of games left, today and Thursday's an off day. Let's just try seeing Hunter Fiducia at first base today. It's a 1:00 game. It's an earlier game. It's getaway day. Just why not just try somebody else there and let Kike have some time off, because he just can't get a hit outside of a home run. And those home runs, they mean something, but at the same time, they don't mean anything when you're down 8-1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I know a lot of people were sort of hoping that Dalton Rushing would come up instead of Hunter Fiducia, and he would have been a guy that maybe you could have plugged in over at first base a little bit, because at this point, his path to the major leagues is not going to be behind the plate. Although I guess it's not really going to be at first base either, because the Dodgers sort of have a guy at that spot.
A little bit.
But I don't think it's a terrible idea in this situation. You got a team that's kind of scuffling. Maybe you just shake some things up, as you mentioned. Give somebody a day off, right? Look, maybe it's a thing where you can give both Muncy and Kike the day off. Like, I don't know if you can really do that. You put Fiducia at first base. You can put Miguel Rojas over at third if you need to. Have Edman play second and put Pages out in center. Just kind of give those guys a chance to sort of watch and reset a little bit. I mean, we saw that with Pages had the night off a couple nights ago. Hits a home run. I mean, he hit it when it was 8-0. And it was sort of inconsequential.
Meant nothing, but
I mean, he had a good at bat. He put one over the seats, so like maybe it just is for some of these guys. Like, hey, let's just let's just pause and reset, take the day off, and see if we can get back at it again.
So what do you take of this Pages outing yesterday? Because he played. He didn't have anything terrible at center field because nothing got hit to him because it was over the fence.
It was over his head, right?
So everything was gone at that point. But he went 2 for 3. He had a home run. He walked it also. So, I mean, it was a good day at the plate. Do you think it was the day off, or do you think we're going to get basically the same Pages that we've been seeing for the first 2 weeks of the season?
I'd like to believe it was the day off, hearing about how distraught he was after some of his mistakes, after losing that ball in Philadelphia that ended up
so bad.
The winning runs there. All reports were he took it really, really hard. And I think for him just to kind of sit and exhale a little bit and not have to worry about that, right? Just take a day off and get out of your head for a day. I do think that makes a difference. I mean, one of the things that I think Dave Roberts is good at is managing personalities and knowing when guys, what guys need a kick in the butt and what guys need a pat on the back. And I think he looked at that as a situation where Pages sort of just more needed a pat on the back, right? And that day off was a way to do that. And he came back and had some good at bats, had some good swings yesterday. So, hopefully that's something to kind of get him going a little bit. Greg, he's not going to suddenly magically become a better defensive outfielder, but if he starts contributing at the plate, then you can sort of overlook some of those other deficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, who was the pitcher last year that Dave went out, gave him a hug, and then he was great for like a week?
Oh, who was that? That's right.
Like, all he needed was the hug on the mound. That's all it takes. And maybe that's the same thing with Pages.
Johan Ramirez.
That's right. And maybe Pages just needed a hug and from Dave and get that good, nice, big bear hug and makes him feel a little bit better. And then hopefully he'll be a little better. I do see this in the chat, and I think it's actually kind of interesting. Blue22 says, feels like everybody is playing unnatural positions. So that kind of is what's going on. Pages is not a center fielder. They're kind of just trying to make him a center fielder. He's Kike is not a first baseman, and he's playing first base. Mookie is not a shortstop as much as he wants to be. He is not a shortstop. He's playing shortstop. The guys are in unnatural positions. I could even make an argument that Muncy is not really a third baseman. I know he's been there for a long time at third base. I don't know if he's actually a third baseman. So while it's natural for him, that might be an unnatural position for him too. What do you think of that, about guys being in an unnatural position? A great question, Blue22.
Oh no, I absolutely think that has something to do with it. I think we might have touched on it just briefly yesterday too, that you're playing guys in spots where they're still trying to kind of figure themselves out. I mean, I saw a big improvement from Muncy defensively last year from where he had been a couple of years ago, but you're right. He's not naturally a third baseman. I mean, you mentioned Mookie's not a shortstop. Kike is filling in for the time being over at first base. Miguel Rojas, kind of the only guy who's doing something that is natural to him on the infield. I guess you could say Edmund when he's in there in second base, at second base as well. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, we already talked before the season about outfield defensively is not great. It's good enough. It's not great. So, that early on in the season looks like a potential Achilles heel for this team. Now it's April. As Mookie gets more reps, right. I think he's going to get better. I think they're going to figure out second base over the long term at some point, whether that's, bringing up Kim, whether it's, Edmund playing there more regularly. I think they'll figure that sort of thing out. So it will get better. But yeah, I don't think there's much of an argument that just having guys play in spots that they're not accustomed to has a lot to do with this team kind of looking ragged on defense.
Yeah, and I mean the amount of errors that they've had has come to play.
They didn't have one last night, so that's a plus.
I know they did not. That was the positive. That was the positive from last night. They did not have an error. That was a great job, Mookie. You didn't have an error. I think that's also something that is something that we have to look at. At how long into the season do you think the Dodgers give Mookie? I mean, do they give him the entire? You're the shortstop. We're not moving you. This is what you are. This is what you want. You're here. You did all that work over the offseason and in spring training. You are now our shortstop. Or do you think that if he continues to have errors and continues to play, just an average or below average shortstop, he's probably he's average or above average right now. But if he continues to play that way and start continuing going down, do they give him do they let him stay there and work it out, or do they say, all right, let's just put you back at second?
No, I think this is it. This is the spot, and he's going to sink or swim there. Now, I think we all truly believe that he's such a gifted athlete that he will figure it out. But I don't see, because look, after last year they moved him mostly out of necessity, right? Like they're trying things. Gavin Lux was having his struggles, and so they made the move. I think that this is kind of what it's going to be. And here's the thing. I know it's a double-edged sword, right? If the other three spots on the infield you feel like are solid, then maybe you could sort of get away with it. But at the same time, shortstop is such a critical position. Like, it's hard
absolutely
to not have a guy that you feel confident in there. But I just believe in my heart of hearts that Mookie Betts, that Marcus Lynn Betts is going to figure things out over there.
Yeah, I do too. I fully believe that he will figure it out. I've said I've not been shy about saying that I don't think he should play shortstop. I just understand that that's what he wants to do. So that's what he's going to do. And the team is going to let him. But at the same time, I just want Tommy Edman in as many positions as possible. And I don't think that is something we can do. I want him at second. I want him at short. I want him at center field because he is the best defender that's on the field. And just let him play, just like clone him and put him at every position. And then let the guys be their hitting selves. But defensively, just Tommy at first, second, third, short, left field, right field, center field, and we should be okay.
It's Bugs Bunny against the Gas House Gorillas, right? Left field, Bugs Bunny. Shortstop, Bugs Bunny. Third base, Bugs Bunny. Like, it's just that's what we would have. If we could have that with Tommy Edman, we would be just fine.
Such a pull. Like, great job.
If we could somehow make that happen, that would be absolutely amazing. But, in the meantime, I think a big part of this is if this team hits the way they can hit, if they go out and score 6 runs a game, then that takes a lot of pressure off this defense. It takes a lot of pressure off this pitching staff because, you have that support. The last couple nights, it hasn't really been there offensively, but, again, this team is too good. It's too experienced. It's too deep to believe that they're going to struggle offensively all year.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, we end this show every day, it seems like, because we like to point out deficiencies and problems and whatever it is. But they're still the best team in all of baseball. They're still worth it. They have the greatest pitching staff probably put together that I've ever seen. They have the best lineup 1 through 9 when they're all actually playing well, that they're going to be like, oh my God, this team is unstoppable. They're going to be just fine. There's nothing to worry about in that. But at the same time, we just have to look at what's going on. And I think, guys like Tommy Edman, who have actually not been good at the plate. I know he has 5 home runs, but really he's not hitting all that great. Mm-hmm. I think it's in the low 2s right now, and his on base percentage is below 3. Yeah, and his on-base percentage is also below 300. That's the thing that I look at the most, is like, how often are you getting on base? And he's not getting on base very much. Max Muncy is getting a little bit better, but even he isn't getting on base very much. It really is it's very top-heavy, and just like last year, the bottom of the lineup is struggling. So, but they're going to be fine.
They're going to be fine.
They'll be just fine.
Well, I also think, look, when you get Freddie back, I think you can move Edman down a couple of spots. I think, for Muncy, some of it is he's just kind of been antsy at the plate. He's not been patient. I mean, Max Muncy is kind of a 3 true outcome guy. Like, when he's going well, he's going to get walks, and then he's going to turn those into home runs at some point. Like, those pitches will become home runs. Right now, he's just striking out. And he's not waiting out at bats. He's chasing pitches out of the zone. So I think it's just he's just a little bit off, but it will come together. It's all part of the Max Muncy experience, basically.
Yep, that is the Max Muncy experience, and he's hit 35 home runs, I think, 4 times in his career with the Dodgers. I'm not sure if he'll do that, but he could very well get back to that point. And there's something here from BC. I love BC. He's in the chat. It's all he does is put in just stats. It's usually just batting average. And this one, I don't think Barnes, Taylor, Rojas are going 300 in the second half to carry the bottom of the lineup. You picked 3 guys that are not going to play that much. Those are 3 guys at the bottom of the lineup right now that barely are going to
Two
be
of whom
playing.
may not be on this team in September.
Like,
so
at all. I could, and technically, all three of them could potentially not actually be there if they want to bring up Hunter Fiducia to be the backup catcher, or Dalton Rushing if something happens to Barnes. I just like, those are the three guys that I think were very, very funny. But anyway, we're at 8:55. We got to get to Travis and DeMarco. That's coming up. Thank you to LAX. Marcus, great show as always. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And we will be back tomorrow. Parker was doing something with numbers or something, so he'll be back tomorrow and Friday apparently. But yeah, he is here. He's in the back, but he had to do some things for his actual job. That's not the Blue Review. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the part of the Blue Review. Again, thank you to LAX. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 on the ESPN LA YouTube channel.